Like the rest of you, we're trying to make sense of this crazy thing that we call life. I'm RJ,
And I'm Khalil.
and welcome to Try Not to Overthink It. I'm a licensed professional counselor.
And I'm a licensed social worker.
Every day we find ourselves discussing many different topics, ranging from trending news to the state of the society as a whole. You name it, we've probably talked about it. And after many heated debates, we decided to expand our conversations and share them with you from both a therapist standpoint and a social worker standpoint, hopefully to get your input. If this is your first time here with us, we want to thank you for checking us out, and we hope you'll stay and become part of our tribe, as well as participate in the conversations.
Hit subscribe.
Yep, hit subscribe. So today's topic, we're going to talk about relationships. So, Khalil, you want to start us off?
Yeah, when it comes to one of the main themes of relationships, especially for single African American women with children and single African American men without children, we always hear some of the negative connotations around being with a woman with kids. I was having this argument recently with the young lady I'm dealing with because she has one child. I have one child, but my child doesn't live with me. And so what we were talking about is it your obligation to take care of somebody else's child or children if you all aren't married? And even if you're married, shouldn't some of that support be coming from the child's father, baby daddy, or whatever you want to call it, ex-husband, whatever it is? And that's called co-parenting. But in the event of the woman transitioning into another relationship, how much falls on the man, the new man? Are you supposed to pick those kids up from school if you're not married? Are you supposed to be staying home with some of those kids and taking care of them if you're not married? Now, if you're living in the house, yeah, there is some responsibilities as the adult in the house. Everybody knows if you're the adult in the house, the minor is under your care, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we see that in the news. We've seen people with their boyfriends kill their children, right? Because you can't leave your kids with anybody, right? Even though we feel as if, hey, if that's your boyfriend or whatever the case may be, it's okay. But we've seen that there could be a lot of dangerous situations that can happen. As a social worker, I've seen enough where kids can be left with people in people's care who aren't responsible. But I say all that to say this: with a lot of single women, whether African American or white or whatever they are, right? Should you expect your new man to pick up the slack? That's the real question.
I think that it depends on the seriousness of the relationship.
Right.
So when you guys are, and what phase you guys are in the relationship, I think that if you guys are just starting out, you guys are in the courtship phase, you guys are in the phase of learning each other and seeing if this is serious or not. No.
Right.
But when you decide to take it to that next level and increase the level of seriousness, and you recognize, because within 6 months when you're dating someone,
Right.
heck, even 90 days, within 90 days of dating someone, if this is going to be something that you can take seriously or not. And if you choose to take the relationship seriously, you accept everything that comes along with that relationship, regardless if that's children, regardless if that's drama, regardless of whatever comes along with that relationship. You inherit that relationship.
Bills.
Bills too.
Especially if you move in. Especially if you move.
Especially if you move in. Now, do I think that with as the new man coming in, that you should absorb all those responsibilities solely as the male provider, as the primary provider? No, because to me, if I have children and my children and my wife, transition to a new relationship, I'm not going to stop being that permanent force, that permanent factor in that relationship. Like me and their mother may not be together any longer, but I'm still their father. So that means that as their father, I'm going to provide for my children. It shouldn't be a situation where you have to ask me, you have to request, the expectation's already set because
Right.
that's how I was raised. Now I
Well,
can't
that's
speak to everyone
co-parenting,
else.
though.
That is co-parenting. I
That's
mean, because
co-parenting, which
I but
doesn't happen in our society as especially in especially in a lot of African American culture.
I
That
think
that's
that
that's some of the stuff that happens that people are talking about. You know that a lot of men, hey, they don't want to take care of children. Not, and I'm not making a generalized statement. Not all men, but there's a percentage of them that are not responsible. So we have to talk about that. They don't want to be responsible. I'm sorry.
well, not even just that, but the thing about it is you have this thing out nowadays, red pill versus blue pill men,
Hmm.
where if you're willing to take on responsibilities as a man in a relationship, especially when you're taking care of a woman, you're paying bills, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're a simp, or you're a
Right.
beta male instead of being an alpha male. I don't necessarily adhere to that philosophy because again, we're not always up.
Right.
We're not always going to be in a position to be winning. So the same way that when I'm down and I'd want someone to hold me down, especially if we're in a relationship, because a relationship, like people have things twisted, like when it comes to, what being in a relationship means and what it means to be in love with somebody.
Right.
Like people get caught up on love is a feeling. Love is not a feeling at all. Love is being able to like truly care about somebody regardless of how you personally feel at all.
Yeah.
Because when you really
Who
think
you
about it,
feel.
when you're with somebody, it's not always going to be um sunshine and rainbows all the time.
Right.
Despite of how you personally feel, you're gonna have to step up to the plate. So if that means waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to pick somebody up from the airport, stopping what
Right.
you're
Right.
doing to go do something for them because they can't do it for themselves, that's what love is. The
Right.
consistent effort, the consistent time of energy, and taking a putting yourself on as second and putting someone or someone's before yourself. That's what love is. And we get into these relationships with each other and don't really understand like purpose, don't really understand what it really truly means to be in a relationship with someone because you don't even love yourself.
Right.
If you can't love yourself, you can't honestly love somebody else.
True. But and the thing is, for me, is not everybody knows that, right? So you get
Mhm.
in these relationships and you're unprepared for what comes next. And like you said, a lot of people, obviously, I'm a social worker, you're a therapist, right? We think about things differently, but a lot of people don't know that your feelings, right, shouldn't dictate, all right, how your actions. All right, because not every day do I feel like getting up and going to work. Not every day do I feel like dealing with my partner. Not every day do I feel like calling a loved one of my family members, right? But I still do it. You know what I mean? Because you always have to separate what's fact from feelings. People don't always
Most
do
most
that.
definitely.
Yeah, that's not what they. As soon as people's feelings are indicative of their mood, and their mood changes their behaviors, right? And those are the things that we try to help people understand as clinicians. Hey, your mood, your feelings, you can separate yourself from those. That's a part of the skills that we teach people so they can understand it. Nobody knows that. That's the funniest thing. Most people don't operate like that. Is if I get upset and I'm walking around mad, then my behavior changes. I'm nasty to people. I want to start fights. That's the issue with a lot of people. And when I say most, I mean most. I'm talking about over 50%. And people, oh, well, it can't be that. Yeah, a lot of people don't know how to separate themselves from their feelings. So you get in these relationships, and today you feel as if you want to be a dad to this child, or today you feel like you want to be a spouse to this woman, and then tomorrow it changes. That's not love.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where, like I said, consistency. Consistency and putting your pride to the side. Because when you really look at like what you were saying about co-parenting, for me as a man, as a clinician, I can tell you that co-parenting without putting your pride on the back burner, it's
Right.
it's doomed to fail. Because what's going to wind up happening is your pride is going to take over, and then you're going to be moving in your flesh rather than moving in your spirit.
Right.
And so what's going to happen is when you move when you're in your flesh, things offend you much more quickly. Things offend you much easier than they would if you were just like, it is what it is.
Right.
You know, we don't have to get along with each other. We don't have to like each other. Hell, we don't have to love each other in this moment. But we have children that we have to raise, which means we have to be the best versions of ourselves.
Right.
One of the things that I pride, so I came from a blended family. So my dad and my mom were married. About when I got in high school, they divorced. My dad has since then been remarried.
Right.
So my stepmom has stepped in and has been a second mom. You know, she hasn't treated us no differently, even though she didn't give birth to us. She didn't give us life. She didn't carry us. She's treated us no differently. If I called her, I know that beyond a shadow of a doubt, if I call her right now, she's going to answer. She'll stop what she's doing and she'll call and she'll answer, or she'll call me right back. You know, there isn't anything that I've ever needed that she didn't provide for me. No different than my own flesh and blood mother did for me. Regardless if it was convenient for her, regardless if she wanted to, regardless if she felt like it. So that's how I know that she loves me. You know, not she made me feel some kind of way, because feelings are fleeting.
Yes.
You know, feelings will have you messed up. But when you know confidently that this person has my back no matter what, that is truly what love is. And so for me, you know, I'm one of those people, anytime that I put my time and energy into something, I go at it aggressively. And the reason I go at it aggressively is because going at something half-heartedly or not, where you're not 100% invested in it, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Every time.
You are literally giving yourself an opportunity to fail and to drop the ball. Whereas when you go aggressively into something, that means you attack it with everything that you got. That means that you're not accepting failure as an option. That means that you accept anything that comes with this. So when I say that I love you or that we are in this together, I mean that. You know, not just me talking, I'll show you that.
But see, now that's where I'm at. So you're in this relationship, you're putting in 110% because, like you said, if I don't go in like that, I already know it's doomed for failure, right? Which a lot of people don't understand. But my problem is then the other person, right? When we start to talk about expectations and what type of expectations you put on a relationship, right? So the other person's like, well, hey, I see RJ is fully committed. He's all the way in. So I can relax and I can take my foot off the gas. And I'm going to let him do what he does. Because that's how people are instinctively. A lot of things, relationships are contractual, especially if the relationship is not an unconditional type love. It becomes contractual. What you can do for me. All right, Janet Jackson, my favorite. You know, I'm old school, so I got it. What have you done for me lately? All right. That's where we're at with all, you know what I'm saying? That's where we're at with different people. And it's like, well, if he's giving 110%, I can slack off. That's my problem. Or she's giving 110%, I can slack off. I see men do it too. Man, she does whatever I tell her, so I'm gonna pull back. That's not how relationships go.
Exactly. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. The Bible talks about that in regards to being equally yoked. What that means is, when it's no different than when you're rowing a boat. If the left oar is moving independently from the right oar, you're just spinning in circles. So if in a relationship, one of our coworkers talked about this, purposively dating. So when you're dating someone, you're courting them, they're courting you, whatever that may be, however what that dynamic may look like. You guys that's what dating is supposed to be. When we're sitting down, we're outlining what the expectations are, because you can't change the rules of the game halfway through the game.
Right.
That's going to set the relationship up to implode and fall apart. When you guys are trying to reestablish the dynamic of the relationship after the relationship has already started to run its course. When you are dating, that is the time for you to figure out who the person is. Are your likes the same? Are you guys trying to go in the same direction? You know, your goals, your purpose. Because again, if you guys are not equally yoked, you guys are not moving in the same direction, eventually one person is going to outgrow the other person. That's just what happens. So I had this conversation with my coworkers a few months back where she was talking about wanting to be married. She was talking about, you know, where she is moving in direction as far as her career and where her partner is moving in his career. She felt that, he's just kind of comfortable and he's complacent in his career. So I asked her, because she told me that he's a cook. So I asked her, I said, where was he at when you guys first got together? Oh, that's what he was doing then.
Right.
Okay. So if it was good enough for you then, and he supported you through whatever you were doing with your career, going back to school, being a full-time student, now you're done with school and you're working towards getting your license. How is it any different than you supporting him now? You can't, you can't change up the rules of the game, because when you first got with him, you knew where he was. I'm pretty sure you guys had that conversation of, this is what I want to do. So now all of a sudden, because you've elevated and you feel like where he is in employment and where you are in employment are not at the same level.
Too much for gap.
Yeah, now it's a problem and now it's an issue. And I'm like, ma'am, you shouldn't be surprised. You knew who he was when you got with him.
Right.
But it just is what it is.
But at the same time, like I said earlier, if the relationship was contractual in the first place, what can you do for me? If you do this for me, I'll do this for you. If it's contractual, all right, and if it's not a mutual agreement, all right, because it could be mutual too if it's contractual. There's a lot of people who, hey, I need you to do this and I'll do this. And we agree on it mutually. So at that time, they agreed on what was going on. He was living with her or whatever the case was, or she was living with him. And it was okay that he was a cook. But once she moved up in life, she started to want more, which is I'm not upset about that. But you knew where he was and he didn't move forward with you. Now he can't offer you as much as what you can offer him. So now, like I said, if it's contractual, then it's transaction. There's some transactions going on, right?
Yep.
All right. And so once she's doing more than him, hey, we no longer in agreement. That's how people are. That's not unconditional love. But that's how the world is. Like you said, when we're thinking carnally, that's how the world is. And I'm fully aware of the world. So I expect people to do stuff like that. Now you're upset.
That's the thing. That's where you got to go into a relationship and when you're dating people, establish those things. Sit down and talk about deal breakers. Things that are non-negotiable, things that are negotiable. That way you can, because when you go into dating, courtship as like a job interview, when I'm trying to hire somebody, I have a position that's vacant. I sit down and I'm assessing this person based off of personality, based off of what's on resume, based off of experience, based off the way that they're presenting themselves right now in front of me, and we're just having a casual conversation because I'm trying to establish if you are able to fill a need right now. If you go into dating in that same thought process of, these are things that I'm looking for, these are non-negotiables, these are negotiable terms. If they can't meet those things, then hey, let's not waste time, because after like 24, 25, anybody that you were dating at that point could potentially be a life partner.
Right.
So if someone is not, when you're dating someone, you're especially in the courtship phase, you're dating someone, you're getting to know them. If you don't see them as adding and multiplying in your life, guess what? They're doing the opposite. They're subtracting.
They're subtracting.
So
now think about that. Think about that math. Think about that math, though. So the longer you're with the person, the more you're losing every year you're with that person.
Facts. It's definitely one of those things. We tend to hold on to relationships longer than we should, because the signs are all there in regards to if this person is adding and multiplying in your life or they're subtracting and dividing. The way that you can tell if someone is adding and multiplying in your life is, are they invested in you without there being some benefit for them?
Right. Now, that's what I was talking about earlier. That's exactly what I was talking about earlier, is because men, especially when you're moving into a relationship with a woman and she has kids and you're expected to take part in that, which is fine. You should be expected to take part in that, especially if you live there. But when you don't live there and you're expected to take part, because I've even been in relationships when I was in my 20s, women with children, right? You have to be a part. You have to take part in their family system. All right, you're actually, as soon as you get with this woman and you are introduced to her kids, you're a part of that family system in the extended family. So my situation is women put expectations on these partners, and I think sometimes they rely on them too much. Even before they move in or before they start to what we call shack up or start engaging in what we the old people used to say, you know what I'm saying? Because that's not a real relationship if you're just needing somebody to help you pay bills. You
Yeah,
get what
I
I'm
mean
saying?
that in and of itself that's a partnership. That's not a relationship.
It's a
So
partnership.
in regards to entering into that relationship, again, expectations have to be outlined from the onset. Now, to me, I've dated, females, ladies, women, whatever you want to call them, that have had children. Me as a man, I'm not trying to meet your children until we've been dating for at least 6 months.
Right.
The reason why is, one, I want to make sure that because it's not healthy mentally
For the
to,
kids.
to see a revolving door of people coming in and out of your life. One, and then two, before I start to become attached, they become attached to me. I want to make sure this is going in a healthy and positive direction. Because one thing that, my parents are some of the best people I have ever had the pleasure of coming in contact with. And I don't just say that because they gave me life, but they have imparted so much knowledge upon me that I thought when I was younger, I thought they were crazy. But now as an adult and as a therapist, you're like, man, they were really right about that.
Right.
But the one thing that if I could, tell them that they could have done differently in regards to raising us was argue in front of us. Like when they would feel some type of way, they're going at it. They're arguing. They weren't disrespectful in any way, but they would be arguing. And so in arguing, growing up, I used to think that the way to deal with any type of disagreement was confrontation. Because that's what I saw. Like my dad says it best, there is no confrontation I don't like. So for me, I grew up thinking that was the way to go. But what I had to realize was there's ways to disagree with somebody without being disrespectful. And I think that in relationships, you can agree to disagree, but there are certain things that as a man, I'm just not going to do. There's certain things that as a man, if I say that I care about you and we're together, I'm not going to disrespect you. Meaning I'm not going to call you out your name. I'm not going to make you feel less than. I'm not going to, feel like you're not heard and that I'm not taking the feelings that you're expressing to me seriously. Even when I argue with people, there's ways that you can disagree with people but still be able to maintain respect.
Right.
So one of the things that I do is, like, if I have to argue, if we have to disagree, one, I'm not going to argue with you when I'm mad. So what I try to do is say, hey, in this moment, there's no way I can do this conversation justice because I'm not listening because we're both mad.
Yeah, once you're upset, you're no longer listening.
Yeah. So because what happens, one of the hardest things for us to do as human beings is communicate. So people don't understand that when you communicate, there's two phases. There's the transmit phase and then there's the receive phase.
Right.
So if we're both transmitting at the same time, nobody's receiving anything. So what has to happen is one person transmit, the other one receives. The other one transmit, and you swap back and forth. Transmission, receive. So that means that somebody's got to put their pride aside, shut up, and just listen to what the other person is saying. When they're done speaking, can I speak?
Right. And that's then, but they need to also process what was said.
Because that's the difference between listening and hearing somebody. When you're listening to somebody, you're taking in what they're saying, but you're looking to disprove what they're saying. You're looking to cut them off. You're looking to devalue what they're saying. You're looking to have the last word or get them told. Whereas when you're hearing them, you're taking it in, you're processing it, and then you're looking at how you can apply what they're telling you to be able to improve yourself. I mean, that's just
listening. That's active listening when people do that.
That's just me. And that's why, like I said, I choose not to argue with people, especially about something serious when I'm mad. So again, what I try to do is I say, hey, I can't do this conversation justice. I need a second or a minute to calm down, to cool off. Because otherwise I'm gonna say something I will regret. And I don't want to disrespect you, and I don't want to do that. So I need you to kind of give me some space, give me a second. So that doesn't mean follow behind me and be still going because I'm not saying anything.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That also takes, I'm about to say, that also takes the other person being willing to allow the conversation to end without a conflict after that. Yeah. That's another issue that you have. And it goes with males and females because, you know, as a social worker, I work with families a lot. You know, if somebody's upset, like you said, something could be said that they didn't intend to let go. And guess what? You can't take it back once it's out, right? So why can't you allow for timeouts? But a person who's always self-consumed, a person who has that mentality that they're the most important person in the room, will not allow the conversation to end or allow the other person to call a timeout. And that's the problem. And you see that in relationships like, hey, if that person wants to call a timeout, and I know I'm one of those type people, when somebody call a timeout on me, I'm like, what? Timeout? No, ain't no timeouts. No, there is. There is timeouts. I had to learn that in my latter years. I wish I had learned it earlier. You know, I probably wouldn't have been through so many tumultuous relationships, but people need to be able to say, timeout, we can come back and reconvene later. Timeout. You should be allowed to call the timeout, not without somebody chasing behind you, without somebody texting you repeatedly or coming up to your job, which I just heard a story like that recently. You know what I'm saying? A young dude, he don't want to take no for an answer. So he's at the woman's job, you know, he's popping up at her house, all those type of things. Sometimes, man, look, you're going to have to sit back and say, all right, you know what? This person doesn't want to be with me, you know, and it's hard for people, especially when there's arguments or situations that they haven't had closure. It's hard for people to stop. That's my problem with that.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying before about pride. You know, one of the best lessons I ever received in life was knowing when to shut the hell up. Every action does not require a response. Sometimes it's just better to just be quiet because like for me, I know me. I can lie to anybody else, but I know me. So I know there's only going to be so many times you're going to disrespect me before I'm gonna be on 10. There's only so many times you're going to loud talk me before I'm gonna be on 10. So my best, you know, and I've dated young ladies where they'll get mad because you're not arguing back.
Right.
And so
he's quiet. He didn't respond.
or if you just say okay, that's an even bigger thing. Okay, that's all you got to say.
Yeah.
My thing is, and I have to tell them, I'm not about to argue with you because you're mad. I'm mad because I love you and because I respect you and because I care about this relationship. It's better that I just not say anything right now in this moment. Give me a second. Let me calm down because I don't want to do a disservice to this conversation. Now, once I've calmed down, you know, we sit down and we talk about it. That's where apologies come in, where, you know, it's very important that, you know, because, you know, one of the things that my grandfather told me when I was younger was either you can be right and be wrong, or you can be wrong and do right.
Right.
So either you can be right and just stand 10 toes down on the fact that I'm right and you're wrong and potentially cause so much damage because you got to be right and your pride cannot allow you to let stuff go. Or you can just say, you know what, I was wrong. And just take that L in that second, take that L and navigate past this, because for some people they will quagmire and they will stew and they will go on and on and on and on and on just because you just couldn't shut up and you just couldn't let it go.
They couldn't
and
let
so
it go.
With certain things, when you are in a relationship with someone, you know, it is important that you are getting to know the person before you start doing things like laying up with people. Right. You know, because you start to, the red flags will be there. And a lot of times, like, we get caught up on these relationships where you become codependent on each other. This person is toxic, you're toxic, and you're just on each other. And so you're not benefiting anything from being in that type of relationship. Like, we will sit here and cry and be upset over people that God has removed out of your life. You know, and when I say that, because Steve Harvey talked about that. He said that basically that you can't worry about people that God has removed from your life because of the fact that God saw things you didn't see. He heard things that you didn't hear, and he made on your behalf. He made moves that you wouldn't have made.
You wouldn't have made it on your own. Right. You wouldn't have made it on your own.
So when a person reveals who they are in regards to not valuing you, not respecting your time, your peace of mind, it's time to let them go.
Because you teach people how to treat you, though. So for me, if you're in this toxic relationship and you haven't explained to that person you don't like this, like people going through your phone, your emails and text messages, right? You don't like people coming up to your job, all right? If you haven't conveyed that type of stuff from day one, like you said, people just start laying up with people, and you haven't really set the boundaries in the rules around how you would like to have a relationship, then of course you're going to accept anything that comes on after that because you haven't fully acknowledged what you want out of a relationship. That's not how you have relationships.
I mean, a relationship is built off of expectation, and disappointment stems from unmet expectations.
Unmet expectations.
So when we're sitting down and we're going through the courtship, we are developing a relationship, we're growing, we're getting to know each other. That's where you outline the expectations. So say just plain and simple. I meet a young lady and we're getting to know each other. We make plans. The expectations is that you're going to show up when we make those plans.
Right, when we make this plan. Right.
You can't just pop in and pop out of my life to kill time until you wait for something better to come up.
Right.
And that's what we tend to do is we're wasting each other's time because I don't really know what I want. You don't really know what you want. I think you're cute. You think I'm cute. So we just laying up and we just rubbing together instead of growing and trying to develop and build something. If you're going to create a house or any type of structure, you got to have a foundation first.
Yes.
You have a floor
plan.
Firm
foundation.
You have a floor plan which outlines what the house going to look like. Then you have a foundation. Then you build the rest of the house. A lot of people nowadays, they're just building the house with no floor plan, no foundation. So the big bad wolf comes and blows the whole house fall down.
Blows it up.
So, when
the enemy's always going to come in and steal, kill, and destroy. But like you said, if y'all are just cohabitating, right? What, like I said, the old folks call shacking up. And I like shacking up because that's all it is. If that's all you're doing and you've outlined that from the beginning, then it's fine. But like you said, if you build that firm foundation and you start saying, hey, well, look, since we were planning on being with each other, and that's when I said when you're putting kids involved in stuff like this, why would you want a kid involved in a situation like you said? As soon as the enemy comes in, the whole thing blows over, and then y'all separating, and the kid who had a stable environment, even though temporarily, all right, is in the middle of chaos now.
Exactly. And so they grow up thinking that it's okay to be in chaos. They grow up thinking that it's okay to be in a toxic, maladaptive relationship, rather that be a boy child, or a female child.
Or female child.
They grow up thinking that it's okay to deal with foolishness, and it's not. Like for most of us as men, like one of the things that we as men have to deal with when we come into a relationship with a woman, especially that has children, is people are trying to put new wine in old wine skins. So I'm coming into this relationship and I'm bringing stuff from my past relationship.
Baggage.
So I haven't necessarily always healed from things that my last partner did to me. And both men and women do that. But my thing is, as a clinician, I've learned that when you go into a new relationship, that's whatever happened in the past happened in the past. That's dead. Because it's no different than when you go on vacation. When you get back home, you unpack all your luggage, you do your laundry, you put those clothes up. It's not like you keep that luggage packed and then you go from Disneyland to SeaWorld, you just bringing the same luggage, dirty, funky, stanky laundry on the next excursion. It doesn't work that way. That is why, to me, again, when you get out of a relationship, take some time
for you
to heal. Take some time to self-reflect on, because the problem for most of us is the fact that we cannot be honest. Like I sit and I'll listen to people talk about their relationship falling apart or not going the way that they want it to go. And they will seldomly say, I played a part in anything. It's always this person did this to me, and if they hadn't done that, I wouldn't have done this. Life is about choices, good,
Yep.
bad, or indifferent. No one can make you do anything. So, like, for me, even being a man of faith, I watched the show Lucifer on Netflix, and it wasn't, when you get past him being the devil and all that other stuff, a lot of the lessons that were imparted in the show were about choice.
Right.
One of the sticking points for Lucifer was the fact that I never made anybody do anything they didn't want to do.
Right. Right.
Like when he the whole premise of the show is he's in Los Angeles and he's working as a consultant with the police. So he's helping them solve crimes. So he goes into the room and he says, "Hey, what do you desire?" And the person would immediately start blurting out, subconscious things that they wanted for themselves. And a lot of people acted on those self-conscious things, not because he made them, because they wanted to do those things.
Right.
So when you're in a relationship, we talk about how someone came in and ruined my relationship.
No.
No one came in and ruined your relationship. The relationship was built on a faulty foundation in the first place.
And this is what you wanted to do. Right.
And that's what you wanted to do. You can't blame that on anybody else. But for most of us in these new age, new generation relationships, as men, you got to lead.
Yes.
You have to lead. But as women have to allow men.
Allow the man. But we talked about this before.
Yeah.
If you with the man that you don't respect and you don't believe he can lead you, then you need to find another man. Because
Exactly.
why would you be in a type of relationship where you're not going to allow him to lead?
So the reason, and this is where, this is where I think that comes from, is the fact that you're so used to dealing with men or certain individuals that don't know how to lead that you think every relationship that you get into, the next person is going to be a bum too. And so the thing about it though is, as a man, I think that a man has to be on his purpose and on his assignment first.
Right.
Has to start off there. When you are on your mission and you're taking your mission seriously, it opens the avenue for you to be able to take care of a family. Because if you're not together, you're not moving in the way that you're supposed to, how are you going to take care of somebody else? How are you going to take care of kids? You can't.
Right.
And so for a lot of women, they're used to dealing with these dudes or, partners that are not together, and they're expecting them to be together and they're not. But that's where the dating comes from. You establish that this person right here is a waste of your time immediately. Immediately. And going on dates, like I keep going back to that. Going on dates is not you coming over at their house, them coming over your house.
That's not a date.
You're Netflixing and chilling, you're Huluing and whatever you want to call it. Going out in public, spending time together, having conversation. Having conversation through text message is not the same thing as having conversation face to face.
Face to face.
Because you can see their face, you can hear voice inflection. There's no misinterpretation of what the meaning of what was said. You get a chance to experience all of that. Versus when you're watching Netflix and you're chilling,
right?
Ain't gonna be too much watching Netflix for a while. Y'all start off watching Netflix, but
that's not gonna last long.
They eventually gets to chilling. So to me, if and this is me as a man imparting knowledge to any woman that is listening to this. If a man takes you seriously, he's taking you on dates.
Right. That's the first thing. He's taking you out in public.
He's taking you out in public.
Women who have long relationships with men, and they tell me, "Well, I've been dating him for 3 months, and I've asked, have you met his parents? Have you been out with him in public? Oh, well, we went to get some fast food, came back. Have you sat in a restaurant with him? Have you met his friends at least? Have you met somebody?" No. When I hear the answers are no for those questions, when a young lady is telling me that, then I say, well, that's a problem. Because you don't know if he's married, matter of fact, or just has another significant other.
Because, ma'am, I'm just going to be honest with you. If the answer is no to those questions, you're probably a side piece.
Number 2, number 3, number 4.
You're probably a side piece, and vice versa. As a man, because the way that I was taught growing up was, as a man, you are going to be, especially when you have children, you are going to be the first man that your daughter is ever going to love and ever receive an unconditional love from. So
Right.
that's how she learns how to love a man. That's how she learns how to receive love from a man, and vice versa for young men. The first woman that you're ever going to love and receive unconditional love from is your
Mom.
mother. That's how you learn how to love women. That's how you learn how to receive love from women. So when and I go back to this, ladies, if you're listening to this, when a man takes you to meet his family and his mother, you are going to replace his mother as the most important woman in his life. So if he doesn't take you to meet the person that you are going to be replacing when you guys get to that point,
There's a problem.
there's a problem. And men, you are going to replace her father or whoever raised, this young lady as the most important man in her life. If she ain't taking you to meet her dad or whoever raised her, there's a problem. It comes down to, like people they're okay with settling. For me, I ain't settling for a goddamn old thing. Why? Because I know what my worth is. I have value.
Well, that's what I'm about to say. You know your worth. If somebody doesn't know their worth and they have a low self-worth, low self-esteem, then they'll accept things that aren't,
they'll accept anything.
They'll accept anything. They're anything people. That's what they call them.
And that's the thing. Like, so for me, when I'm with somebody and I love you, it's one thing to tell somebody I love you. It's another thing to show them that I love you. Because when I say that I love you and I fool with you, that means that anything that you need, I got you. That means that I'm going above and beyond for things like birthdays, holidays, because I'm going to go out of my way to make you feel special. Not just in just saying that, oh yeah, you're special. Hey, let's go do this. Let's go do that.
Right.
Now, if you say no, that's on you.
That's on you,
But,
right there, right?
But at the same time, I want you to understand how I feel about you and not necessarily and feel it, not necessarily just hear it. So I've learned that in any relationship, in order to find the right one, you have to be with the wrong ones first.
Right.
Life is about trial
Well,
and
you
error.
you shouldn't be with wrong ones every year, though. And so when you meet people who are constantly in relationships, and we both had coworkers, we worked together in the past. We both have coworkers where you're like, you go through these relationships, you be with these men 1 year, and then the next year you with another one. Next year you with another one, and you haven't found one that wants to marry you or that you want to marry. Then there's a problem with your judgment or lack of judgment. So we need to sit you down. And the next thing is African Americans, because I want my African Americans to hear this. Going to a therapist is about self-awareness, gaining self-awareness. I'm sorry.
Facts.
Gaining self-awareness. If you do the same thing over and over again, if it becomes cyclical, if it's a mistake that's constantly made, you keep hitting your head, right? Notice I got a scar on my head, right? If you keep hitting your head, then you probably need to go see a therapist because you're trapped in an endless cycle. And somebody's got to help you from the outside looking in. And that's not a knock on black people. That's just something to let you know. The reason why a lot of black people don't like going to therapists or don't like seeking help from a social worker or a clinician is because we're embarrassed of these things. I can't find my way out. That's not an embarrassment because the other cultures, there's a lot of the other cultures who will go. That's not an embarrassment. That's just saying I need help.
Well, the problem with that is the fact that you have to acknowledge that you kind of put yourself in that cycle. Because
Right.
part of going and sitting in front of a therapist is acknowledging that I don't have all the answers. Because like you said, going to sit down with someone to express how you feel and work through your feelings and help you process things doesn't make you weak, doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you, doesn't mean that you're broken in some way. It means that you've recognized I'm living the crazy life, living La Vida Loca. Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. So
Right.
we will enter into a relationship, and because we all have types. Anybody that says they don't have a type is lying to you.
Right.
Everyone has a particular person they're looking for. Rather, he's this tall or she's shaped like
visual
this.
aesthetics.
We all have a type that we're attracted to. if somebody walks through a room, you'll notice them over the 100 other people that are in there. We all have a type. But if that type leads you into destruction and disarray, it's time to let that go. Because I've heard people say, I need somebody that can handle me. I've heard both men and women say that. I need somebody that can handle me. If you're saying that, that means that you bring no peace. You are a hurricane. you are a tornado, an earthquake, a landslide. You are an atomic bomb. You need to be by yourself, because as you get older, your peace of mind is invaluable.
More important. Yeah, it's more important the older you get.
The three most important things to any man: loyalty, respect, peace of mind. Those things I will cut you off over. I don't care how much I love you. I will cut you off. You will be dead to me over. Because for me, I don't want to constantly be in a fight, a struggle, a storm all the time. Now, it is very important that you go through adversity throughout your life. Why? Because adversity builds strength. When you go to the gym, you need something. You need resistance, or you ain't gonna build no muscles. But at the end of the day, who wants to be in a battle every single minute of every single day?
It'll wear you out. It does.
Like
my neighbors, like that, the person who's going to fight you every day, that's what they're used to, RJ. That's what a lot of people grow up in that chaos. Or grow up in that darkness. What did the dude say from Batman? Was it Bane or whatever like that? Where he said he grew up in that. He grew up in darkness, right?
Yeah.
There's people who are like that. That you don't understand it is that's all they know. All they know is darkness. All they know is chaos. They've been living in crisis since they were 2-3 years old. Their parents have put them in that mix. Those are those people who, no matter what they do, the relationships are always going to be toxic because that's all they know. They're gonna attract that type of person in their life because that's all they know, that chaos, and they thrive in it. They actually prefer it. They don't feel safe when things are quiet. So if I meet a female like that, I have to accept where she's at, and I have to go. Obviously, I'm going to move forward, but I'm just saying there's those people who don't get the help. That's what they're used to. You can't get mad if somebody's used to that. That's all they know.
I mean, but see, that's where it's imperative that we, as we have to break those generational curses. Just because you experience it doesn't mean that your child has to experience it.
Right.
It doesn't mean that their children have to experience it. Like one of the things that I am so thankful for is my father. So my father, he grew up dirt poor, and he'll tell you that. I'm some kid from the backwoods of Alabama, and look where I'm at now. Living in this big house, making this money. Never would have thought differently. My dad is the epitome of the 50 Cent's first album, Get Rich or Die Trying.
Right.
So at the end of the day, like, he broke certain generational curses that had he not, there's no telling where I would have been. It was imperative for myself and my siblings to get educated. It was imperative for us to go to school and not be playing around. Like, we're all successful in our career fields because my dad, he made a choice. I got to cut this off. I can't live like this.
Right.
Now,
you don't want my kids living like that.
Exactly. And so, did he stumble? Yes. Did he struggle? Yes. But did he find his way by the grace of God? Yes. And so, because he did those things, he broke those curses. Guess what? We were able to continue that. So it's imperative that you grow up, and that's why, like I said before, arguing in front of your children. Be very leery of what you are doing in front of your children, because your children start to normalize that.
They model it.
I saw a poster one time where it was a male lion walking, and there was a cub behind him. And so the quote was, "I wanted to stop so many times, I turned around to see who was watching me." So when you're raising children, especially when you're laying up and you're making children and stuff of that nature, you have to be very mindful of the fact of what you're impugning and what you're putting out into the atmosphere for the child to pick up and absorb. Because when they see you disrespect women, guess what? Your son is going to grow up thinking he can disrespect women.
Exactly.
If you as a young lady are being disrespected by your partner in front of your daughter, what do you think she's going to do?
Yep.
She's going to think that it's okay for her to be disrespected.
Accept that
and logged out.
behavior.
And I
Right.
never really thought about that until like I watched Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. And Erica and Scrappy, Erica said that to Scrappy. She's like, you done disrespected me and dogged me out so many times. What you think Amani's gonna think is okay?
Right.
And I was and you could see it in his face. Like it hit him.
Processed. Yeah.
And he processed it. And that's one thing I can never take away from Scrappy is he loved his kids. So when she said that and it hit him, he was just, you could see it in his face. Like he really felt it when she said that. And so it's imperative that we understand that, you know, as men, we are the leader of the pride. And, you know, as a pride of lions, because I'm a huge animal nerd. As a pride of lions, the male's job is to protect the pride. You know, protect the territory, help bring down the big prey and protect the young. So when, as a man, I'm not living in my purpose, I'm not living out my mission, I'm not operating, you know, in the way that a man's supposed to be, guess what? I'm failing my children. And so for me, as a man, I feel like that is the hugest, biggest failure that you could ever accomplish is to fail your children.
Well, yeah, a man that's not taking care of his family is no better than an infidel. You know, so we know that if you're not doing that, that means that you don't care about yourself.
Exactly, because as a man, you have to stand up for what you believe in. And when you stand up for what you believe in, you accept for whatever consequences come with that. And so that means that I got to go to work to provide. That means that I have to do everything that's necessary in order to make sure that my family who's depending on me, those people behind me, are taken care of. Because again, what happens is it creates that generational curse where you weren't there, they're not going to be there because that's what's normal for them.
Well, it's normal, right?
Yeah,
I survived without my dad. That's the first thing that came to my mind when I got a divorce with my ex-wife. Well, I survived without my daughter going to be all right. And luckily, obviously, I've been in her life and I try to be in her life as much as I can. But that thought crossed my mind. Yeah. That should tell you people don't understand that. That was the first thought that crossed my mind. Because, of course, you know, when a woman sent me the papers, I was upset, right? But when I had time to process, that was the first thing that came through my mind. Because I was like, oh, dang, now, you know, I got to go through this child support stuff. I'm not going to be able to see my daughter as much as I used to. This is going to be crazy. But the first thing that actually allowed me to have relaxation, because I was so anxious, well, shoot, I ain't grow up with no dad. That's crazy. And when I had to rebuke that thought in the name of Jesus, I had to rebuke it. And I was like, man, where's that come from? Well, I know it came from the enemy. Luckily, I was getting counseling in 2015, and I was able to talk about these and verbalize these things because it was a cognitive distortion. I didn't grow up with a dad, so my daughter don't deserve a dad. That's crazy. But those are the thoughts. And people think, well, I mean, my kid might not think like that or anything like that. Or my child might not, or the guy who I'm with might not think like that, or my child won't have to suffer. You don't know what's going to happen. For every action, there's a reaction, right? So we don't know. When we leave these people or we separate from whoever, all right, the woman or man, whoever's separating, there's going to be some backlash. And the children usually suffer. That's my problem with going into relationships with people. And they have kids and you not willing to take care of the kids, or you taking care of the kid half the time and then the relationship breaks up. Those things cause a lot of trauma to children.
They do. And I mean, those are things that's why it's imperative that you don't enter into a relationship with anybody, regardless if they have children or not, or not. Or not. Never enter into lightly. Because you don't necessarily, like you said, consequences and, you know, just a domino effect occur. You never know how what you said or what you did impacts somebody else. And a lot of us don't do that. We don't think of, like, in this moment right now, we don't think 5 minutes from now, 15 minutes from now, first, second, third order effects. You know, like right now, it's cool to be hopping from person to person to person, not really understanding that when you finally decide to settle down, regardless if you're a man or a woman, your past will precede you and it will follow and it will follow you.
Right.
So, you know, you got to think of yourself like a slice of pizza. Who wants to eat it? Who wants to eat a slice of pizza that somebody done nibbled on?
Somebody
the crust?
nibbled off.
Somebody done pulled the pepperoni off of. Somebody done flicked off the pepper or the sausage. Nobody does. So when you're out here just sharing yourself, and that's both men and women, when you're out here doing that stuff, you're causing damage. You're causing damage to not only yourself but to other people, because nobody wants to be played with. Right. Nobody wants their heart to be pulled and to be tugged. And it's imperative that we understand the long-lasting effects that our decisions and our choices have in regards to relationships. Because what happens for our younger generation is they don't understand what a healthy relationship looks like.
Right.
So, and relationships are not just romantic relationships. There's professional relationships, you know. So when you don't know how to interact with people in a romantic way, you're not going to know how to interact with people in a professional way.
Your social skills are lacking anyway. When you find someone who doesn't know how to interact in a romantic, in a personal, in any type of work situation, if you're socially inept or and people don't realize this, I don't care how romantic or how smooth of a talker you are and how manipulative you can be, doesn't mean that you have good social skills. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't translate well into the workplace if I'm lying and manipulating everybody. That doesn't translate well. That means there's something wrong with you if I have to be, if you're trying to manipulate your coworker, your boss, or anybody. There's something wrong with you. That means you have a personality disorder if that's how you're operating in the world. You get what I'm saying? And people don't get that. I'm like, yeah, you're probably a sociopath if this is the type of stuff you're doing. And women and men fall victim to predators. There's predators out here. The enemy is like a roaring lion seeking whom to devour. People don't understand that. There's predators out here. You're meeting people who really don't care. They want to get at you regardless and use you for their personal gain. So we have to be very mindful of who we invite in our tents, right? So if I'm going to bring you into my household, I need to spend some time with you just to see, because you could be just a predator. They're out here. They passed the eyeball test. Me and RJ, we've seen it. Working at the mental health center, we've had some females pass the eyeball test. They're like, oh, she looks damn good, but damn, she's got some screws loose. No offense, people could be crazy as you want to be, but I'm not going to let you in my house. But you might if you're not the type of person who's going to be a little bit more observant. You better start observing who you're letting into your tent.
Yeah, and so it's very imperative that you understand that everyone doesn't earn or have the right to listen to your story.
Right.
You know, your life is a saga. You know, like I'm a huge history person. I love, you know, some of the classical works like the Iliad and the Odyssey and things of that nature. Right. Shakespeare. You know, you got to think of your life as a saga. Someone is telling your story. You got a scribe that is walking behind you, writing down all your heroic feats and your good deeds. So everyone that sits down at your table don't deserve to hear your story.
Right.
And so it's imperative that you understand that you as an individual have worth and value, regardless if you're, unified with somebody or not. So in going into dating and courting somebody, you understand that, hey, this person may not meet the qualifications to be at this job. Thank you for being interested in the position, but we're gonna have to say no, thank you at this time.
Right, I'm gonna say peace out.
and that's okay. And that's okay, but your expectations need to be realistic and they need to be feasible. If you're looking for a high value person, and not even then, that's very subjective. You're looking for a high value person, you need to be high value in return. And that's where it goes back to what I was saying earlier about being equally yoked. We both got to be at the same page, on the same page. We both got to be trying to go in the same direction. But that's where you find those things out when you're dating. You find out and you have your checklist, your mental and emotional checklist of it. Like for me, one of my non-negotiables is church. Worship.
Yeah, you got to be spiritual.
What does worship look like for you? Do you attend church? Do you read? What is your religious text? Do you read it? Are you into it? Those are questions that I'm asking, because again,
Right.
if I'm going to be sharing my time with you, because time is something, it's not like food or anything else. You can't get that back. If I'm going to be sharing my time with you, I need to know that in me sharing my time with you, that it's going to multiply and add in my life. It's not going to distract or move me from my purpose,
Right.
be a distraction from my mission. Because again, it's very imperative as men, in order for us to lead, in order for us to be able to develop the confidence to be able to have people follow us, we have to move on mission. We have to move on purpose. We have to take the mission and the purpose seriously.
You
And
got to
so
have that mindset that is a
exactly,
mission. That
you
this life
you
is a
gotta
mission.
you gotta be disciplined. And they're gonna be, for both men and women, there's gonna be so many distractions in life that pull you from your mission, that pull you from your distraction. And because we as human beings, we like instant gratification. That's why we
Right.
got microwaves. Because in the time it takes
That's
me
why
to cook a
microwaves were
hot pocket,
created.
yeah, that's what microwaves were created, to cook things really quickly. So in the time it takes me to have a hot pocket, I've seen people cook a hot pocket. I've seen people have relationships.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you're like,
But that's crazy, right? How are you going to microwave a family?
but that's what
In
people
6
do.
months, you pregnant, or in 6 months, you done knocked up 2 women. I've seen it all. And you
And
say you got 2 kids coming at the same time? Yeah.
And I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's where it boils down to. We as human beings just don't value each other anymore. We don't. We do not value each other anymore. We don't appreciate one another. We take each other for granted because, excuse me, what'll happen is I will do you some kind of way with the expectation you will allow me to. You'll
Right.
come back, or you ain't going nowhere.
Right.
And so the thing about it is we have to value each other.
Well, then I'm definitely not valuing if I think I can do something to you like that and get away with it.
If I think that it's okay for me to disrespect you, make you look some kind of way, or treat you less than what you're worth, I don't appreciate you and I don't value you.
Right.
And so I say that to both men and women, that if your partner does not truly value you, you need to head the other way, because again, that relationship is doomed to fail. It's doomed to fail. It is not going to go in a positive direction. It's not going to help you grow, because for me, I believe in economy of energy. If it's not going to help me be a better person, it's not going to enrich my life in some kind of way. It's not going to help me grow and mature, both physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. I'm leaving it alone, because if it's not doing those things, it's sucking the life out of me.
Right.
And who wants to be in a relationship like that? Who wants to be with someone like that, where you're just sucking the life out of me, to where every time I see you, I get a headache. I'm like, oh my God.
Look, I'm not looking forward to you coming home. There's a problem. If you're not looking forward to your significant other coming home, there's an issue. Like, oh no, she about to walk in here and my whole day is gonna go downhill from there. There's a problem. Or he coming home and I need to leave before he get in his house. There's a problem. There's a problem, man.
Like my sister has a dog. She's a rat terrier. Her name is Kylie.
Mm-hmm.
My entire family get upset over the fact of how much Kylie loves me. They're like, man, that dog loves you so much. But every time I come in this house, you would think that this the first time this dog has seen me in months.
Right.
Dog, she running all over the place to the point to where she tired. Like, she's just so happy. Like, literally, I sit down on the couch, she's ready to jump in my lap just to be held.
Right.
That is what, when you are in a healthy, fruitful relationship, that's what the relationship is supposed to be. Now, there's going to be times
be happy to see you.
Exactly. Regardless if I'm upset with you in this moment or not. Because no relationship is going to be 100% perfect. It's not going to be 100% sunshine and rainbows and Skittles all the time. But again, if your negatives far outweigh your positives in that relationship, what are you doing? I don't understand what you're doing, because I'm not staying anywhere where I'm unhappy 90% of the time versus happy 10% of the time.
Yeah, there's a problem. There's a problem.
There's a problem.
Well, codependency issues as well.
Most definitely. And so we're going to stop here, and we're going to continue this conversation in our next episode. If you like what you heard, you want to participate in the conversation, please, please, we ask that you join our tribe, join, become part of the tribe,
Get the
because
T-shirt.
get the T-shirt, because we definitely want to increase, having these conversations, and hopefully start having these conversations with guests on the show, to be able to get other people's viewpoints other than just our own. Because between the two of us, like I said, we talk about a multitude of different things, and we debate a multitude of different things, because our lives are not necessarily the same. So his standpoint is different than mine based off our life experience. So the more people that we can start having these conversations with, maybe, we can force multiply and start seeing some change in society as a whole. So again, if you like what you heard, or you didn't like what you heard, we ask that, you participate in the conversation with us. And we hope that you will continue to participate in these conversations and join our tribe. And until next time, I'm RJ.
All right. I'm Khalil.
And we'll see you next time on the show.